All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into one of the biggest, most fascinating stories in tech right now, Google's AI paradox. I mean, it's this crazy story of a company that literally invented the future and then somehow got left behind by it. So let's really get into this, because it is a true paradox. I mean, think about it. Google had everything. They had the best people, the best tech, all the computing power in the world. And still, when ChatGPT dropped in late 2022, they were totally caught off guard. How does that even happen? In this slide, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the undisputed king of the hill, the company that invented the very foundation of modern AI. And on the other side, that same giant totally caught flat-footed by a tiny startup, a startup that was using Google's own invention against them. To really get how we got here, we've got to go back in time a bit.
See, the thing is, AI wasn't just some new, shiny project for Google. Nope. It was baked into their DNA from day one.
That's Larry Page, one of the co-founders, and he's saying this way back in the year 2000. Think about that. Even then, he knew Google's real endgame wasn't just about listing a bunch of websites. It was about actually understanding information. For him, the perfect search engine, well, it had to be an AI.
And you can see that early progress right here. It started small, with these simple language models. But then came the big one, the famous cat paper. And this was a huge moment. They basically proved that their AI, their computer brain, could watch millions of YouTube videos and learn to spot cats all by itself, without anyone ever telling it what a cat looks like. This was the proof they needed. It showed their approach to AI could work on a massive, Google-sized scale.
So that success, it kicked off this incredible golden age for AI at Google. They went on an absolute hiring spree, putting together an AI dream team that, honestly, nobody else in the world could even come close to.
I mean, just take a look at this list of names. This is not an exaggeration. Pretty much everyone who is a big deal in AI today, they were all working at Google around 2014. They had a complete monopoly on the world's best and brightest AI minds. It's wild. And they didn't stop there. They locked down their lead with some really smart buys. First, they won a bidding war to get the guys who created AlexNet. That's the model that basically kicked off this whole deep learning revolution. Then, a year later, they snagged DeepMind, a company with maybe the most ambitious mission statement ever, to literally solve intelligence. Okay, so now Google is at the absolute peak of its powers. And right at this moment, their AI division does two incredibly important things. They create a secret weapon that they keep all to themselves, and they create a world-changing invention that they just give away for free. All right, first up, the secret weapon, the TPU, or Tensor Processing Unit. This wasn't some off-the-shelf chip. No, this was custom hardware built by Google for Google specifically to run AI. And it gave them this massive advantage. They could train and run their giant AI models way faster and cheaper than anyone else on the planet. And then there was the gift. So in 2017, a team of 8 super smart researchers inside Google comes up with a totally new way to build AI. A new architecture. They call it the Transformer. And it was an absolute game changer in getting computers to actually understand human language. Now here's the crazy part. Unlike the TPU chip, which they kept super secret, they didn't hide the Transformer. They published it. They put out a research paper called Attention is All You Need, and in doing so, they basically handed the rest of the world the keys to the kingdom. This was the blueprint for all modern AI. But here's where the story takes a wild turn. Google's own moves, their incredible success, and even their generosity ended up creating their biggest competition. And yeah, it all kind of started with one very angry billionaire. So Elon Musk, he'd put money into DeepMind early on, and he was absolutely furious when Google swooped in and bought them. So what did he do? He got a bunch of the world's top AI researchers together for dinner and laid out a simple pitch. Quit Google, come work for me at my new nonprofit lab, OpenAI. And the mission he pitched? It was a direct shot at Google. The ideal was to build AI for the good of all humanity without having to worry about making money. You gotta admit, that's a pretty compelling offer. And it worked. It was enough to pull away some major talent from Google, including a guy named Ilya Sutskever. And this next part, it's just brutal for Google. Think about this.
Within just a few years of publishing what was probably the most important AI paper of the decade, every single one of the 8 people who wrote it was gone. They'd all left Google. So not only did they give the idea away, they lost the brilliant minds behind it too.
Which brings us right back to where we started, to the moment when all these decisions finally came home to roost and the whole world saw it happen. Right? November 30th, 2022, OpenAI launches ChatGPT, and it just sets the world on fire. Suddenly you have this startup, founded by a guy who was mad at Google, built on Google's own invention, and staffed by a bunch of ex-Googlers, showing everyone the future, a future that Google could have and probably should have built themselves. And this really gets to the core of the problem for them, the innovator's dilemma. This new kind of AI, this conversational search, it completely changes how we find information online. And that is a direct threat to Google's search business. You know, the one that prints $140 billion a year in profit? It's the cash cow that pays for everything else at the company. So that leaves us with the big multi-billion-dollar question, right? Can Google really go all in on this disruptive tech that they themselves created, even if it means blowing up the most profitable business in the history of the world? The AI race is well and truly on, and for the company that fired the starting gun, well, the outcome is anything but guaranteed.